Happy Halloween, movie fans. So, in honor of Halloween, Heather and I are going to do something a little different. We, without getting too specific of here's where we live, we're in the greater central Orlando area. So we get the privilege of being near the theme park. So we really enjoy Halloween Horror Nights every year. So, I'll be perfectly honest, Heather, and I don't know if you were in the same camp with this. My expectations were relatively low for Horror Nights this year. It's not because last year was bad. I just figured with the big 30th anniversary next year, I thought this would be a slow year and all their efforts went to 30. I don't want to speak for you, but were we wrong? This was a really, really good year.
Yeah, honestly, I thought just going into it, last year was fine for me, but it was my first year. So this year, I was just going with you because I thought it would be a neat thing to just try with you. Try something new again. And I was hoping it was going to be fine. But it was better than fine.
So today we're going to be talking about just our favorite moments that we experienced. We're going to talk briefly about our ranking our top 5 favorite houses, as well as some honorable mentions, because honestly, 9 out of the 10 houses absolutely killed it this year, and then there's us, but we won't go into that. So yeah, we'll talk about our favorite moments, our favorite houses, and then we'll kind of end with looking ahead to the off season, if you will, with Halloween, with Horror Nights reaching its 30th anniversary next year. What might we see? First off, we want to talk about some of our favorite moments. So I think the first one, when we got there the first night, I think the first one that I made sure that we got to was Universal Monsters, which I'll talk more about that later. But I remember we went immediately after it to the one next to it, which is Graveyard Games. And I don't know what we were expecting for that first run, but that was one of my favorite runs for any house that we had all year. How much do you remember of that first Graveyard Games run?
I just remember how cool it looked. Honestly, walking in there and, there are some teenagers messing around in the graveyard. Like, that's right when you walk in. That's what I first noticed. And the sounds, the things you hear in the background.
Yeah, great sound editing. There's a moment in a tunnel that is pitch black.
Yeah.
And everything is just surround sound. So you because you're trained yourself of jump scare. You expect something to be in that hallway to jump out and scare you.
I definitely thought so, yeah.
But having safely been on that house like 6 or 7 times now, there's nothing in the hallway. But every single time I go on it, that's the hallway that people go through the fastest. They don't deal with pitch black well. But
honestly, yeah.
That first run was great, and there's a scare that neither of us were expecting. I don't get scared easily in houses. I'm just that much of a horror fan that I can see where it's coming, and I'm that weird dude that's just like, let's admire the craftsmanship that went into this house and the technique. But no, we both got a really good scare in our first run of kind of like these air cannons were shooting out, but it wasn't. Like, a lot of scares in houses kind of are at eye level, kind of like popping out next to you. Yeah. This was a little bit lower, so your guard is kind of low. I like varied heights. We'll talk about Yeti later. There's some up high scares, and I like up high, down low, too slow. But Graveyard Games had this great, like, air jet scare that still stands out to me as one of the best scares. I don't know if I got at a whole bunch other than that, in all my other runs that I've done with Graveyard Games, I've only ever really gotten with that first one, but that's still the best one. Heather, what's one of your favorite moments that you've had?
I really enjoyed the scare zones. Last year, I don't know, I liked them, but like this year, I really liked them more.
Which stand out to you, do you think?
Honestly, I did like the Viking one as much as I didn't know about. Like, I'm not big into that stuff. Like, it's fine, whatever. Just the look of it was pretty cool, and I know you'll talk more about it.
That surprises me, actually.
I do like it, and there was a moment, it was the last time we went, and you were using your camera and taking pictures, and I was just thinking, okay, you're capturing some really cool details that I wouldn't have known if we wouldn't have stopped and just took a minute. Really like that. And I really like the Zombieland one. I thought it was unique. It wasn't very large, but it had like what's the game where you use the hammer and they're like,
yeah, it's like the sledgehammer
sledgehammer,
bell
and then ding at the top. I thought that was cool because it related so much to the movie. And where which one is in the, you know, the game where all the like teddy bears and things in the cage or whatever they call it.
It's supposed to be Tallahassee, but every time I saw it, it was always Emma Stone's character instead, which I thought was super weird. But I like that they had that part.
I did like that scare zone a lot. Like I saw they had some of the characters, but Nathan, you said you saw all the characters.
More or less.
The main characters.
The only complaint I would have about that scare zone is I could have used for more physical props.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of characters that you get really up close because you don't even realize that they're scare actors. Mm-hmm. I like the roller coaster. They recreated the ending of the first one. The only thing I really would have changed is this scare zone was supposed to be Zombieland 1 and 2 with the movie coming out while Horror Nights was running.
Yeah.
Having seen Zombieland 2, it's great. There's like nothing Zombieland 2 related in this scare zone, which is super weird.
I hadn't seen 2 yet, but everything looked like from the first one, right?
Yeah, including the best thing that I made sure to seek out every single night that I was there, the Bill Murray lookalike. It was great that they included that reference.
Yeah, you know, you say that, and I know you sort of like, oh, he's all. I think I would have remembered if I saw him. I don't think I saw him.
Yeah,
he
kind of came and went.
Kind of rainy too, so
yeah, he kind of came and went.
Yeah.
Honestly, neither of those are my favorite scare zone. I like the Viking one. To be fair, I don't think you can do wrong in that particular.
No.
It's that zone. Last year it was 2 years ago. It was Trick or Treat, which is still one of my favorite scare zones they've ever done. Last year it was like that scarecrow theming. I think it's just that area really lends itself well to a scare zone. But my favorite scare zone is Anarcade. Like the 80s throwback arcade.
Why didn't I think of that? That was my favorite one.
It's not a big scare zone, but it's a really, really fun one of like an 80s retro and bright neon and some of the most clever designs for that. Normal in the past, since I've been going, that area has kind of just been the throwaway scare zone, but this year it felt like they actually put detail and focus into it, and I really enjoyed that area quite a bit.
I really liked the standing. They had the standing old-fashioned video games, but they were so big and so tall. It looked like, I don't know, you could see them from down the road when you were walking. You were like, oh, okay. And like Nathan said, they were neon and greens and purples and orange. And like, it was so cool. Like, I don't know, you wouldn't even have to be like a video game person to enjoy it. It was just, it was simple, but they had a lot of things to look at.
Mm-hmm. So we won't get a chance to talk about it during the houses segment, but by far my favorite thing about Horror Nights every single time we went, and it has to be on my list for one of my favorite moments because the first time we saw it was the Marathon of Mayhem, which is like their show on the lagoon.
Yeah.
Which you and I have been meaning to get around to seeing their daytime lagoon show forever, like the regular park closing. And so I didn't really know what to expect. The last time I saw a projection show at Universal was when they projected on the castle, which is frankly was pretty trash.
It was horrible.
Now, I know they have a Dark Arts show now, which we haven't seen yet, but that show was pretty bad. So my expectations were pretty low. I'll be honest, Marathon Mayhem was by far my favorite thing this year. It was so good. And that first time, primarily not knowing what to expect, but it opens with like the Universal Monsters. And then when they do the moment that got me every single time, and you know exactly which moment I'm going to talk about, they're doing their big epic finale, and they're kind of using music themes from all the various movies that are showing up, like the Ghostbusters theme, the Stranger Things theme. But then they circle back to the Universal Monsters. They played an upbeat, like hip-hop techno version of the classic Universal Monsters theme of, I think it's Swan Lake is the music of like, do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And it's such a deep cut of like, you really have to know those old school monster movies to know that music. And just, that was the moment I was like, this is clearly made by a fan. And it just made my heart happy. Yeah. It was such a good show.
It was good.
We made sure to see Marathon of Mayhem every single night.
Did you mention they were like in the water? You could see like the not reflection, the like scenes from different shows, different movies, whatever. And that was so cool. So the very first time I saw it,
we couldn't see.
I couldn't see very well.
That was my bad.
But the second time, it was, like Nathan said, it was fantastic. And I just like the whole thing, even though, Killer Clowns. No, that's not our favorite movie, but it was still cool seeing, like,
I
the
cheered when they played the
and
music.
different things. And you could just sort of like, oh, okay, like, it's all of the movies, all the things that make this year's Horror Nights come together. It's right there. And you could see it visually. And the sounds was...
Yeah, I want to shake hands with whoever scored the music.
Yeah.
It was so well orchestrated, and I don't see how they're going to top it for 30, but I'm sure that they will.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple other brief favorite moments before we move on to houses. So last year we saw the Academy of Villains show. Last year it was something techno related, and we both walked away kind of disappointed because at that time of the night we're just like, all right, do we want to sit down and watch a show for about half an hour, or do we want to wait in Graveyard Games, which we made the wrong choice that year. We didn't get to see Graveyard Games. We heard that was a really good house, and Academy of Villains kind of let us down last year. Yeah. So I was pretty adamant that we were going to stay away from it this year because I was just like, it's going to be a wasted show. We're going to be too busy going houses.
Yeah.
So I didn't even see it till like my 4th visit to HHN this year. And I'll be honest, I owe the Academy of Villains people a big apology because this year they completely blew it out of the water. They transitioned more from like a techno electronic style music to like good old fashioned classic rock. But also the story felt more Halloween-ish of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde as opposed to Terminator 2.
No, I'd say it was more of a story to follow.
Yes.
Last year, it was like this battle between these two people, and they were doing these gymnastic things, but it didn't really make sense. It was kind of cool in that way, but nothing followed through. This year, everything to us made sense in the perfect order. Like you said, it was...
clear-cut characters, great dancing. Like, there was good dancing last year, but this year, the dancing worked in cooperation with the story.
Right.
And so there's different specialty performers, like the joint guy, or the soccer ball guy had his moment, but they're all interweaved with the story really, really well. And so they combined the amazing storytelling that you get in the houses mixed with the dance. And it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it.
Just like different elements. Like there's certain things I liked, probably just in general, and I know you liked certain things more than I did. But I really liked the video. They had a really cool video that went along with the people actually dancing and doing the choreography and the story. And just like these graphics and things that were just like, bam, bam, like comic book. It looked like a comic book. A live comic book. I love that. That was something I really loved. Like Nathan said, I love the music and how it related to the story better. There was a long scene in it that I really liked, that they were playing with basketballs and they were doing all these tricks and things, but it was like, I think, and a lot of it was like, okay, are you going to go for this character, the good character? Are you going to go for the bad, the evil character? And so it was like the basketball was like back and forth, like
the actor playing the bad guy. The actor playing the bad guy, you could tell is having the most fun in the world.
Yes.
He's having the time of his life as a bad guy. He was great. Just across the board, Academy of Villains was leaps and bounds better this year. That being said, to tease something for later in the episode, I don't think they're going to be back in that same venue next year. I think Academy of Villains will return for 30, but they're not going to be there. Let's just say I think someone's coming home. But let's wrap things up really quick. Heather, you put down in the notes, better food. What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, last year, okay, don't get me wrong. Last year we had this triple-decker
extravaganza.
That was so good. And we had it this year, and I thought it was better this year. I don't know why. I think we were just really hungry and we wanted a snack. It was like waffles with whipped cream and Reese's Pieces and just good things. That was very good. But, okay, even though... To Nathan on the side, I've said, like, I didn't really like... They did this famous thing called pizza fries.
I liked them.
With fries and
which, to be fair,
sauce.
Pizza fries were not new. That's an annual thing.
No,
as well as the other thing
new.
we had.
Like I said, but it was new to us. So it was the first time trying it. So I liked it. It wasn't my favorite. I loved the cheese. The sauce was just kind of weird. I'm kind of picky on sauce though. But Nathan really enjoyed it. There's you know what else?
Twisted taters.
Yes. We love these things, twisted taters.
Even though we can never get them fresh. They're always a little soggy.
I mean, they were
fine.
The second time we got them twice. The second time they were better. But they had like 4 or 5 varieties, and the first time we got the salt and vinegar, which we liked the salty stuff. That was really good. Vinegary, like powerful, but very good. And what was the second one? It was like
it's like sour cream and chive or something.
Yeah, it tasted like just
good.
Lay's like chips. It tasted like a chip.
But yeah, food options were excellent.
Yeah.
Just really, really good. So I think with that, we'll move on to houses. Like I said before, 9 out of the 10 houses this year were really, really good. I was very much disappointed with us. Well, I can't be disappointed if I had 0 expectations to begin with. I thought the movie sucked and I thought the house sucked. But everything else, I was blown away. And I like that there's a good variety of like, there are houses that we both like. There are houses that I would only go in, but I still enjoyed.
Yeah.
There's something for everyone this year, and I really, really liked that.
Yeah.
So, Heather, do you want to do some honorable mention before we get into our?
Sure.
Like, what is not in your top 5 that you want to make sure that you give a quick tip of the hat to?
I definitely really, really liked Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I did. And I know that we talked about this, but the reason why it's probably not in my top 5 for me is because it was too short.
It is short, but also, I don't want to speak for you, but at least for me personally, I didn't grow up with Ghostbusters, so I don't have an attachment to it.
Like, I don't really either.
Like last year, you and I went to Halloween 4 like 3 times because we have seen that movie so many times and we like that movie. Ghostbusters, it's fine, but we're not like emotionally attached to it like some other franchises.
I do put it on this part because I thought it was fun. I thought it seemed real life. It seemed like the actors and all the different designs and the sets look like how it would look like in the movie. And I really remember, like, I think it was the brick walls and different things, and then it's the area. Library. Yeah, the library, and then at the very end where they're in the office or whatever it is. That felt like it should be in from the movie. I
think my favorite part about the Ghostbusters house was those first ghosts that we saw when they're trying to trap it. Ooh, I got the hiccups. When they're trying to trap it with the proton packs. And like the lighting that they use looks just like the movie and it's done really, really well.
Is that where we're walking through and they're kind of like...
Yeah, like Egon or Venkman will like come through the side and they're like trying to trap the ghost.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I liked Ghostbusters quite a bit. Great ending with Bill Murray. We came, we saw, and yeah, I enjoyed that house quite a bit. But for our actual list, Heather, you can start us off. What was your number 5 favorite house?
My number 5. My number 5 was, I know it's on your list, but it's different set, is Yeti. It was about the, Yeti.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Basically, I enjoyed it because you walked in and it feels like you're in like the Arctic or something, and it's all white. It looks like icy and snowy, and it's cool. It's like temperature.
Not as cool as it could have been.
Not cool.
Like when you first walk in, it's a nice relief like from Florida, but
it wasn't like 30 degrees or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt temperature-wise, it was a little bit cooler. And I just liked how there was Yetis. Like Nathan said earlier about different things. Yetis on the, like, lower, upper, at my eye level, at Nathan's eye level. They were all different, and not like all at once, but like hidden. And they would come out, and just the whole atmosphere was really neat.
I'll get it over with now, because Yeti's my number 4. I actually liked that it wasn't all Yeti scares. Like you had like these woodsmen that were there. Yeah. I liked it. You go like in and out of buildings in this woods area, so it feels more like you're actually there. I'm also a big fan of. I'm that guy, like I said earlier, that when he goes through the house, just like admire the work and detail that went into this.
Yeah,
and
definitely. Costuming,
especially, I really enjoy it. And Yeti excelled at it. All the Yetis were unique and had their own. Like, you could tell that there are their own individual styles of Yeti. And then at the end, there's, like, a really really tall guy.
I
Like
do
the Yeti.
remember that.
Holy cow, that dude was tall.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really liked the design work a lot for
Yeah.
Yeti. It was really, really enjoyable. It was
Mhm.
wasn't a super intense house.
No, it wasn't.
But it could get you every once in a while, but it was a lot of fun. Just considering how out of left field the concept could have been.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know going in. It was one that I was super excited for, but I just didn't really know how it would pay off.
Yeah.
But I really like how they did it.
The one last thing I would say about that, like, I wish I would have gotten to go in it more. I only went once. Nathan went to Halloween Horror Nights a lot more times than I did. But I only went through that house once, which I think that's why it's a number 5 and not, like,
I will say
lower on or higher on my list.
It could have been higher on my list, but a lot of my later runs weren't as good as my first initial run with you.
Okay.
Some of the ones that are higher up on my list, the more I went back, the better and better they got.
Yeah,
my number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
For me, my number 5 is Stranger Things.
Okay.
It's really, really good. But that being said, it revolves around parts of Stranger Things that I don't care about as much for the series. Like, half of it is of season 2 and half of it's season 3. I don't like season 2 of Stranger Things, so while they're really, really accurate in some parts of, like, when the Demodogs are attacking in the school bus, that was portrayed excellently. All the child actors, the adults playing kids, are always spot on convincing. But I just don't care about season 2. That being said, when you finally get to the season 3 part, wow, did they really knock it out of the park. I guess we could talk about spoilers because the attraction's all but done now.
Yeah.
Towards the end of season 3, there's this big set piece of, if you are familiar with season 3 of Stranger Things, the Mind Flayer in Starcourt Mall, they more or less create a life-size scaled puppet of the Mind Flayer. And when it didn't scare me, it was more of just like, how did you possibly pull this off? Of, like, at least 30 feet tall, all functioning and moving. Just amazing. I know Stranger Things will go into more detail later because that's later on your list. I know.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Stranger Things. I just think there's 4 other houses that I enjoyed more. So like I said, number 4 for me is Yeti. Jumping up to number 3 for me is Depths of Fear. So this one was one of the ones that we went on super early, and I didn't know what to expect for this house. So the advertising around it was, this is like an underwater house. And I'm just going, how are you going to do that in the middle of Florida? So it's more or less an underwater base, and these, like, fishman hybrids are there. And it sounds cheesy and dumb, and it is, but in the best possible way. This is where Slaughter Cinema was last year, and that was kind of the fun, cheesy cornball house. And that is exactly the same thing with Depths of Fear, of these great, way over the top costumes, but in the best possible way. It's just these giant fish heads, and I really enjoyed it for being so different. Yeah. It's really different. That being said, there was an element that caused some controversy. It didn't bother me a whole bunch, but going through the house, knowing that it was there, I did find it completely unnecessary. The dead dog. Oh. It's so pointless. Yeah. Of, like, honestly, I get why people are upset, but also at the same time, didn't need to be there. Yeah,
the thing is, now that you mention it, I forgot about it. I mean, I didn't like it because I don't like anything like that. But
I could tell. I don't remember. As the haunt season, we'll call it, progressed, you could tell they got more and more complaints because they ramped up the fog machine around the dog, so you couldn't see it as well. But I remember when we walked through it the first time, there's this great effect of, like, those, like, water troughs that you kind of see in mining areas. To your left, and, like, filled with actual water, and it was cool to just be able to, like, feel something tactile and real, be like, cool, I can kind of interact with this. It makes it feel like the ship is actually kind of sinking, it has a leak in it. But yeah, I know you only went on Depths of Fear once, I think, but you seem to really enjoy that one time that we did.
I did really enjoy it, and I would also probably put it on an honorable mention. Again, with Yeti, like, I wish I would have gotten to do that Depths of Fear again. It was super fun, and like when we walked in, it looked like you were looking up like you're in an abandoned ship. So like there was no ceiling, and like you were like looking up, like, oh, okay, and then you're like surrounded by water, everything water things. And what Nathan said, I really liked how they were like these creepy like sea creature fish things that would come out of the walls. But like again, with every house there's like things from over here, below and beyond and whatever, and every creature was different, and that's what I liked about it too.
Yeah, so another thing that I really liked about it was certain houses are in certain locations, like some are in a warehouse, like a soundstage, so others are in a certain building, whereas there's always at least 2 attractions that are in sprung tents, and at least 3 attractions, are in sprung tents, and at times you could definitely tell that you're inside of a tent.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that with Depths of Fear.
No.
I felt like I was inside of a ship, and I really, really enjoyed that.
Definitely.
What is your number 4?
My number 4 is actually, surprisingly, Killer Clowns.
Yeah, why is that so surprising for us?
Well, last year, for one thing, we watched the movie and we didn't like it. I know some people like it, but anyway, that's another story. Last year it was the Scare Zone, right?
Yes.
It was
by Transformers.
It was so boring. And like, I don't get creeped out by clowns. It was just literally these lazy clowns walking, and they didn't even scare you. But anyway, this year I absolutely really, really enjoyed Killer Clowns. It was like, to me, it was just like all these clowns in a super fun house. Mm-hmm. And Nathan, I know you liked it too, because right away it's like a carnivore. You like in the movie, like there's cotton candy smells or popcorn or whatever it was, and it was so cool.
And it had buttons that you could press.
I would say, yes, interactive. That was probably the most fun interactive one.
Although, don't press every button, as I discovered the hard way. You will get wet if you press every button.
Well, the thing is, somebody on our first round in Killer Clowns, somebody must have pressed it either before us or whatever, but I got soaked in my shirt. Soaked, like right at my stomach, that area. And I'm like, oh, but it was so fun. Like, it was so colorful, and it was so
different.
It was so different. And there was this one scene that, like, okay, to anyone who's like afraid of clouds would thought it'd be creepy. I didn't think it was very creepy. I was just like staring right back. But it was like these clowns with these people.
Is it towards the end with cotton candy?
Maybe. Maybe. But it was like these people and the clowns, and there were statues, and then the people the real people in the Horror Nights, like the Universal people that are just like security on by, like keep going. Mm-hmm. They're just standing with the clowns, like really still. And like, it does look creepy, but like, honestly, my trick for these houses is just laugh at them and just smile, because then I don't get afraid. And it really wasn't creepy. It was just kind of...
It's like an old school fun house.
That's exactly why I liked it so much.
So we're down to my number 3. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is Graveyard Games.
I could talk about this one
all day. Is this
all
your
day.
Number? Oh, this
is my number 2.
Okay. This
is a very close tie between 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. I really struggle with this one. But why do you like Graveyard Games as your number 3?
Yeah, like we mentioned before, like it was so, you walk in and you are in a graveyard, but it's not like a spooky graveyard yet. It was like these teenagers, and I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but they were just like, one was spray painting, one was like, she was saying something like, oh, we can't find, I don't know exactly what she was saying.
Ghost in the graveyard.
And they were like, it was like it was another one with a story. Most of them have stories.
Very well told story. I actually want this to be a movie.
Yeah, oh yeah. And it was just really fun, and like you see the tombstones, and then you go further and you see like other things like kind of spooky, like you'd think it would be in the graveyard, but I don't know. It was just really interesting.
I think.
How would you describe it more? Because I'm trying to remember.
Graveyard Games has my single favorite trick in any house. So you go around this corner, and there's like glass that's like reflecting candles at your feet, but then you look at it and you are not there. So it's this mirror, but the mirror is not showing anything except for the candles at your feet. It was such a cool effect, and there's a lot of cool effects in this house.
I like that.
There's scares from all different, like there's ones that'll pop out next to you, but then there'll be like kid-size actors that I have been on this house like 6 or 7 times, and every single time I got something new, and that happens so rarely with houses.
Was this the house? Well, the first run through you went to, I was like, oh, I noticed it right away. There was a scare, kind of at my level, a little higher than me, but you like jumped. You didn't get scared, but you just like it startled you. I feel like it was this house or Universal Monsters, but I think it was this house.
I wouldn't be surprised. That
it
first
was like
one,
towards the end.
We got quite a few big jumps, I think.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I don't think we mentioned it. My biggest scare that I got was inadvertent because I got accidental touchage. So scare actors aren't supposed to touch you, and technically the person didn't touch me; their clothes did. In House of a Thousand Corpses, towards the end of it, this girl's got like this long billowy dress, and so like her sleeve like touched my shoulder, and then I look over and she's like right next to me.
That's kind of creepy.
And like having something actually like touch me, it was like, oh, okay, this is my second to last house of this whole thing, and I have not been touched so far. But that threw me off for a second. But going back to Graveyard Games, it's such a clever told story. It's just a good old fashioned haunted house type. It's clear story, beautiful design work, like from the scare actors to the walls.
The set.
Yeah, the sets are great. Not the best design work, but I'll say that for my number one.
Yeah.
Heather, what is your number two?
Yeah, my number two is your number one, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I really, really liked it at first.
What is it?
It's Universal Monsters. I really, really liked it, but the first time around was fine, but the second, did I go 2 or 3 times?
I think you went 3 times. I will completely agree. That first run through, and maybe it's because maybe my expectations were so high. I heard it was really good. That first run through, I think we must have just got it at a cast change because we really didn't get a lot. And so that's when I was just like, I'm going to give it another chance. And from the second run through onward, it is one of, if not my favorite houses I've ever been in.
I really liked, like, when you walk in, it was like, that was probably really, really the coolest part.
Oh, that's one of the coolest
rooms. It was like statues of all the classic monsters, right?
And depending on the night that you went and how busy it was, they'd have kind of like a snow/rain effect coming down. But yeah, it's like a dark and stormy night with the statues of all the people that you're going to see, like Wolfman, Hunchback, No Invisible Man, which is BS, but I've gotten over that.
Yeah.
Phantom of the Opera, Dracula, Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, which I'll talk about in a little bit here.
I know what you're going to say.
I like that with Universal Monsters, every room, you know exactly where you are, and there's just these little touches here and there of like, when you go into the opening area where Wolfman is, it says Talbot above the door because that's the name of the man in the original Wolfman that turns into into the Wolfman. Or before you get into Hunchback, in the doorway it says Hugo because Victor Hugo wrote Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So on and so forth.
Yeah.
Or the flashing lights that could be interpreted as the chandelier falling down in Phantom of the Opera is actually the electrical circuits spraying everywhere from Frankenstein.
Was that the area where I didn't really care
That's right after, yes.
Okay.
So there's a room with Phantom of the Opera that freaked us both out the first time we went because it's a room full of mirrors.
Yeah.
And the scare actors itself didn't scare us, but it was the not knowing which direction to go because it seemed more open than it was.
Yeah. It definitely made me dizzy.
Yes.
And I was like, oh gosh, like I don't, like Nathan said, the direction was not really clear.
I think Universal Monsters, at least for me personally, in some of my later runs, I am proud to say that I went on like 8 or 9 times because I love this house that much. That I had the most fun with the scare actors themselves of like interacting off of what I'm doing. Like they could tell that I wasn't scared, but they still want to have fun with it. So like one time, like Phantom of the Opera, like popped out of the wall and gave me like a dramatic Phantom of the Opera, and I did that back, and he kind of like nodded. He was just like, yeah. Or one time, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Every single time, I would see him coming, so I looked at him. And he just kind of nothing. I would take a couple steps, and he would like lunge his hand right in front of my face, and every single time it got me. And so one time, I kind of like after he did that, I was one of the last people into the night to do it. I turned back and waved, and he like waved back. I was just like. Respect, creature
in
from the Black Lagoon.
in the interactions. I will say, I'm pretty sure that this was the house that I got a real scare at. Do you remember when it was towards the end with Wolfman?
Yes!
That's when I jumped really a lot. I don't think I screamed, but I definitely was put out.
Was that
on
also
my
the same
steps.
run as Polite Dracula?
Yes.
So it's like in this dungeony cavern area. So Wolfman comes out and startles her. Dracula, I felt so bad for him actually in this moment of like he is like right behind this group of like high school girls that were squeamish the whole run through. So he's like primed and ready for a great scare, and they don't turn around. And so since this is narrow hallway, he kind of has to like wait for us to go by. So he kind of like just gestures of just like,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. And I saw what he was going for with the group before, so I'm just like, I'm sorry, man, you missed out on a good scare because they were too lazy to turn around. It would have been great.
That was a good round because, like Nathan said, there were these annoying teenage girls in front of us.
I never mind that because I always enjoy hearing people screaming terror.
But I think they were the annoying girls, but then behind us, there were like young couples about our age, and like we would like. There was a girl, I think I was like pointing things out to her. Oh, there's someone going to be over here. Oh, there's here. And then she's like, oh, okay, thank you. And then we're like, there's one where we both got scared at the same time.
Oh, I do the exact opposite.
I wasn't screaming, but I was like, jump.
I don't point them out to people. I point out this, like, if I make eye contact with scare actors, I do like one of these of like, the people behind me are wimps, scare them, and 9 times out of 10 they did. And it just made my experience so much better having the people behind me be scared.
This has nothing to do with the house, really, but I just remember how you had interactions with the Universal employees before you would get into the houses in general. There were a couple, like you would just talk to, like, they're just really saying some really good cheesy jokes.
I won't repeat it what he said here, but there was one time that we went in front of Universal Monsters.
Yeah. That's
and
what I thought of.
He roasted somebody that went into the house, and I was like, wow. That is like, that cuts deep, man, but I applaud you for that. That was funny.
But in general, they just try to play along and get you involved with the story and have fun.
Yeah, Universal Monsters, that's the best house I've ever been in.
It was really cool.
But it's not your number one. What is your number one?
Well, mine, I think because I have an attachment to it, just like you, but a little different. I really liked Stranger Things for my number one. It was just... I love, we're saying the same things, but I love the story. I loved how the actors, we said this from last year as well, which I'm so glad it was the same. The actors looked like the real actors in Stranger Things as much as they could, with, the teenagers to the adults to whoever. I love that. Just what Nathan said earlier, I didn't care for as much for season 2, so the stuff in there, it still really looked cool, but it wasn't my favorite part of the house. But I just loved, there's this area, I don't remember, I think it is part of season 2, where it's like, no, it's like the warehouse part or whatever. Yeah. It was more open, and it was just like, it was really, really neat. I'm trying to remember specifics because, again,
Starcourt Mall.
So the mall. Now that was cool because they had the little shop, the little the
Scoops
stand.
Ahoy.
Yeah, the ice cream, and that was cool. I wish they had more of that.
I wish they had physical Scoops Ahoy.
Yes. Oh yeah, in general, not just in the houses. But I wish they had more. Again, it was long enough. Since I enjoyed it so much,
it's one of the longest houses, actually, I think, like, ever.
But definitely worth the wait if you love Stranger Things, if you love anything 80s. Well, I guess there were a lot 80s. But if you like that, like, Stranger Things was worth the wait. We really liked it.
Well, because Horror Nights is a thing I think about year-round because of my love of horror and my love of Universal, I'm already kind of thinking ahead to HHN 30 because I'm sure they're going to pull out all the stops for that. They did some great things for 25. That's why they're regarded as one of the best years they've ever done. So my standards are very, very high, not just coming off the back of this year, but for an anniversary year, and as big of an anniversary year as 30 is, they've really got to step up their game. So I kind of went through and thought ahead to some things that I'm going to go out and predict that we'll see for HHN 30. So right off the bat, I'm going to say something Halloween related. Yes, we got Halloween 4 last year, and I think 2 years before that we got Halloween 2, and then before that we got Halloween. So we've had a lot of Halloweens recently, but we haven't had any of these new Halloweens. I was actually really, really surprised that we didn't get Halloween 2018 this year. And this could just be me putting the tinfoil hat on. I think there was plans to have it at one point. So whenever we were waiting in the houses, they'd show just different trailers for houses that you could see. And for some reason, they always showed Halloween now on Blu-ray and DVD, which makes me think, wait, was this supposed to be here? But you just went in a different direction? Because that happens all the time. Like, this would play in the same time as a trailer for Us or Ghostbusters now on DVD, except there wasn't Us house, there was a Ghostbusters house, which made me think, was there ever plans for a Halloween house? So I would not be surprised in the slightest if there's a Halloween house next year, especially with as it stands right now, my most anticipated movie of 2020, Halloween Kills, which is the sequel to 2018's Halloween, but actually feels more like a sequel to the original movie with all the people they're bringing back.
Okay, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Halloween Kills comes next year, and goes where House of a Thousand Corpses was this year, because also that's typically, for lack of a better term, it's known as the Blumhouse, because in past years, not this year, but the 2 years before that, and I think before that too, that's been a location that's been reserved for Blumhouse-related movies, which, quick, Heather, who made Halloween 2018?
Blumhouse?
Blumhouse! So I think the pieces are there to fit, I think.
Yeah, but I will say that it's probably going to be there next year, because they wanted to give it a break. I feel like they did Halloween last year, Halloween 4. This year, they had a great variety, like we talked about, and they just want to, take a break from Halloween. It's a big, major franchise. We got to prepare. Like Nathan said, I'm thinking they had the idea. Maybe they just wanted to expand upon it because the movie's not out yet, so they wanted to wait until the big 30th.
So now they can lump in 2018's Halloween with Halloween Kills.
Exactly. That's like what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Like they could lump the movies together like they did with Stranger Things Season 2 and 3.
Yeah.
I think if we don't get Halloween Kills in that area, there's another alternative movie that's coming out in 2020 that does have a long storied franchise attached to it in Candyman. So Candyman isn't a horror franchise I'm not overly familiar with, but I think the pieces are there that make me think that this absolutely could be coming to Horror Nights next year for the 30th in that Blumhouse location, or somewhere in the park if it's not in that spot. So this movie is not going to be directed by, but it's going to be produced by Jordan Peele, who did Get Out and Us. Okay. Jordan Peele has a very good working relationship with Universal and with Horror Nights. He worked very closely with the production for the Us House this year, since he's producing this Candyman movie, I think via Blumhouse. The pieces kind of fall together, and if it does well, there's always some fairly recent IPs that get turned into houses. So I wouldn't be surprised if Candyman's one of them next year, depending on how the movie does.
What is Candyman like? Candyman, I'm thinking like from like the 30s or 40s.
No, Candyman is kind of like Bloody Mary in that you say his name 3 times and he appears and kills people.
That doesn't seem interesting to me.
It's the same guy that played, who we're led to believe is Death in the Final Destination movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with it, but if it does well, it's one of those like could do well as a house type of things. Okay. Now, those are for things that already attach to movie franchises. I would not be surprised if we see some returning fan favorites, shall we say. 30th, like we've said, is a big year. And so for the 20th, they rolled out all their famous icons, like, gosh, why am I blanking on names? But all the famous icons back when they had icons back in the day. Like the filmmaker, there's the guy that took the tickets at the movie theater, the old grandma. I'm butchering all these names, I'm sorry. But there's one that stands head and shoulders above the rest. That's more or less arguably the face of Halloween Horror Nights, Jack the Clown, who has not been seen in quite a while. But any big anniversary, I can't see you leaving him off the docket. He's one of the biggest names in horror and Halloween Horror Nights. He's just the guy that when you think of icons, even if you're not familiar with Horror Nights, you've probably seen a picture of Jack the Clown at some point or another. He's just synonymous with the attraction. So I feel pretty confident saying that he'll be there in some capacity. Now, this one may be a bit more of a reach, but I think it would be cool. This is more of a wish fulfillment on my part than an actual out-and-out prediction. So in the very first Halloween Horror Nights, they had one attraction called the Dungeon of Terror. I can see them going back to that for the diehard fans of being like, all right, we're going to bring it back in a new revamped style. 2020 version of the Dungeon of Terror, which was like their only attraction for the night when they first opened it all those many years ago. I think it'd be really, really cool if they brought back the Dungeon of Terror concept.
What was that like? I don't know.
Very much like a combination of Graveyard Games meets Universal Monsters. So it's like all the old school monsters in
like a house?
In an old school dungeon. Maybe combine Dungeon of Terror with some of your famous icons like Storyteller, Jack. Maybe put them all together in one house. Now, last prediction may be crazy, and you and I have talked about this at length.
I don't think it's crazy.
We said earlier in the show that we think Academy of Villains will be coming back, but not in their same location. Because I think the Big Daddy's coming home and returning. I think they're bringing back Bill and Ted's for Horror Nights 30. And I think there's a lot of reasons why. So, while they've never come out and said it, one of the prevailing theories out there as to why they canceled at the end of Halloween Horror Nights 27 was that area where Fear Factor Live was going to be torn down and becoming the Ministry of Magic as an attachment to Diagon, which is right next to it.
Yeah.
Well, now that we're getting Epic Universe into Park, maybe the Ministry of Magic slots over to that park instead, and Fear Factor as a stage is staying around for a while. So maybe that means the return of Bill and Ted's. But also, like we said, it's a big anniversary. They're going to want to bring back some of the classics or relive some of the big highlights over the years. And as long as there's been Horror Nights, there's been Bill and Ted's. But I think the biggest point in the favor of Bill and Ted coming back is the fact that unlike previous years, there's actually a Bill and Ted movie coming out in 2020. Bill and Ted Face the Music comes out in August, right before scare season at the beginning of September. So if that movie does well, you ride that wave of momentum right to Horror Nights for a Bill and Ted show.
I'm thinking that was purposely done. I think you're pretty good with predictions and just figuring out clues from what you have already. So I really think that's probably going to be right as well.
There is another big clue. I forget who tweeted about it, but Universal people always ask a bunch of surveys when they leave for Horror Nights. They're really good about taking guest feedback. Apparently, one of the questions that they asked was, how would you feel about the return of Bill and Ted's? To which all of us are just going, oh? I think with the movie around the corner, with it being the 30th anniversary, I would not be surprised in the slightest if we get the return of Bill and Ted's. But that's just my general predictions. As a whole, Horror Nights 29 was just great. I had high expectations, but it even blew away those high expectations. We just had a great time. I'm super excited for 30. Had any closing thoughts?
I was just going to say I really enjoyed it. I know I said that, but I am so glad that I got to go with you, and I went a few times. And I would say if you live in the area, or if you don't and you just want to come and try the Universal thing, definitely try Universal in general, but definitely try to come around September or October sometime, just to try one night at Horror Nights next year. I think it's a good experience, especially if they have a variety like this year, just to try something different.
Well, I think that'll about do it. Have a great Halloween, and stay sharp, movie guys and gals.